NFL trade deadline is just around the corner. And if you're a Buffalo Bills fan, you know this is the time of year when the rumors start flying and the speculation gets wild. But let's cut through the noise and get real about what this team actually needs, what's realistic, and where the focus should be if the front office is serious about turning things around for a deep postseason run. And it starts with the idea of bringing in reinforcements, specifically via trade. One fan asked a great question. Who are the top 5 trade targets for the Bills? And who should be the top 2 priorities? And this is the perfect conversation to have right now, because honestly, the clock is ticking. Let's start with the obvious. The Bills are at crossroads. This roster isn't exactly crumbling, but cracks are showing, especially on defense. Injuries have mounted, performances have dipped, and suddenly, games that felt like automatic wins now feel like coin flips. Still, that doesn't mean you panic. It means you act smartly, strategically, and aggressively where necessary. And for me, that starts with a dream trade target who would instantly energize this defense. Budda Baker from the Arizona Cardinals. Now look, I'm not going to pretend Arizona is just itching to give the guy away. But man, if there's any chance at all, you've got to explore it. Budda Baker is one of those rare safeties who jumps off the screen. He's instinctive, plays with fire, and has the kind of physicality and speed that Buffalo's secondary desperately needs right now. He's the kind of guy who can change the energy of your defense, not just with his play, but with his presence. The Cardinals are sitting at the bottom of a tough division, and they've already started making decisions about their long-term future. So yeah, there's at least a chance that someone like Budda could be had, especially if Arizona decides to stockpile picks and focus on a full rebuild. But again, that's a dream scenario. If that door closes, there's another veteran safety that could be a more realistic short-term solution. Quandre Diggs from the Tennessee Titans. He's older, sure, 32 years old, and on a 1-year deal, but he's exactly the kind of steady presence you want to bring in to solidify the back end of the defense while younger players continue to grow. The Bills need help back there, and Diggs could provide that bridge without costing too much in terms of draft capital. But let's be honest, the defense isn't the only problem. In fact, as crazy as it might sound, the best way to help this struggling defense might actually be to fix the offense. Because the Bills' offense, at full strength, just hasn't been good enough. And that leads me to what I think might be the most important area to target before the deadline: wide receiver. Specifically, someone who can beat man coverage, stretch the field, and give Josh Allen a legitimate threat beyond just Stefon Diggs. And that's where the New Orleans Saints come in. They've got 2 guys I'd love to see in a Bills uniform. Chris Olave would be at the top of my list. This guy is electric, a vertical threat, a route technician, and still young enough that you're not just renting him. You'd have him under contract this year and next, which is huge. He'd immediately help the Bills beat man coverage, open up the deep passing game, and just give this offense a different gear. Of course, Olave's not going to come cheap. He's a premium player, and the Saints won't let him go for peanuts. But if you're serious about maximizing Josh Allen's window, this is the kind of move you at least have to explore. Now, if Olave's price tag is too high, his teammate Rashid Shaheed could be an intriguing alternative. Not quite as polished, but man, the explosiveness is there. He can stretch the field, he's got real speed, and on top of that, he's a legit return guy. Punt returns, kick returns, he checks multiple boxes. And the best part? He'd likely cost you less in a trade than Olave. That kind of versatility is exactly what the Bills need. Because let's be real, the offense isn't scaring defenses right now. Teams are lining up in man coverage and daring Josh Allen to beat them with guys who just aren't getting open consistently. You bring in someone like Shaheed, and suddenly the defense has to think twice. But it's not just about pass catchers and safeties. There's another name on that Saints roster that deserves real consideration: linebacker Demario Davis. Yes, he's older, 36 to be exact, but he's still a downhill monster. You want someone to plug up the run in January against physical teams like the Colts, or even the Chiefs if they decide to pound the rock. That's where a guy like Davis could be clutch. He's not going to change your entire defense, and you don't want him chasing tight ends down the seam, but for early downs and short yardage situations, he'd be massive. That veteran presence, that physicality, it could change the tone of this defense. Now, let's be clear. I don't think the Bills are going to trade for Baker. I don't think they're trading for Demario Davis. Even Quandre Diggs feels like a long shot. But what does feel likely is a move at wide receiver. It's the position where the need is most obvious, the potential impact is greatest, and the availability across the league is a little more realistic. The offense has been at full strength all year, and it still hasn't clicked. Defenses have figured out how to slow them down. Press coverage, single high safety looks, and pressure that doesn't get punished. That's a recipe for disaster. And it's why adding a guy like Olavi or Shaheed might not just be a smart move. It might be a necessary one. And here's the thing. While it's true the defense has been decimated by injuries, reinforcements are on the way. A.J. Epineza, Micah Hyde, Daquan Jones, they're on track to return. Maybe you get Matt Milano back. There are ways the defense can stabilize. But offensively, this is your unit. You've got Josh Allen, James Cook, Khalil Shakir, and Keon Coleman. That's the group. And right now, that group isn't doing enough. So, if you're trying to help the defense, help the offense first. Stay on the field longer, extend drives, put pressure on the other team to keep up. That's how you flip the script. That's how you change the season. So, if you're asking for my top 2 trade priorities, it's one of those Saints receivers, Olavi or Shaheed, and Baker. That's the dream scenario. That's the splash that could change the trajectory of this team. You want to go toe-to-toe with Kansas City or Baltimore in January. You better bring more to the fight than what we've seen the past few weeks. Because right now, teams aren't afraid of the Bills, and that needs to change. And look, I get it. The idea of trading for A.J. Brown has also been thrown around. The fit with Josh Allen is obvious. The talent speaks for itself. But let's not kid ourselves. That contract is a nightmare to move. If the Eagles traded him, they'd eat over $40 million in dead cap next year alone. It's just not happening. And even if it were, you'd have to pray he doesn't end up somewhere like New England, where he'd instantly be the number 1 guy and face Buffalo twice a year. No thanks. Philly's not moving him. This is just part of their typical season rhythm. A few bumps, some sideline drama, and then they usually find their stride. So instead of chasing pipe dreams, focus on the targets that make sense and can actually make a difference. The Bills don't need to overhaul the entire roster, but they do need a spark, someone who can step in and change games. Because as it stands right now, the offense looks stuck, the defense is scrambling, and unless something changes soon, this team could be staring at another early playoff exit. And with Josh Allen in his prime, that's just not acceptable. When you zoom out and look at the bigger picture, there's a growing concern that this Buffalo Bills roster is still very much in a transitional phase, maybe more than people realize coming into the season. There was talk last year about a soft reset, especially after parting ways with veterans and absorbing that massive dead cap hit from the Stephon Diggs situation. And yet, somehow, they still managed to land the 2 seed and make a solid playoff push. But now, the smoke is starting to clear, and what we're seeing is a team still trying to figure out who they are and who they can count on. The most glaring problem? The 2024 draft class has simply not delivered. Not even close. This group was supposed to be the beginning of the next core. Instead, it's been a mix of underperformance, injuries, and just flat-out disappointment. Keon Coleman, taken to be a big-bodied weapon for Josh Allen, has yet to prove he's more than just a red zone option. He hasn't consistently won against man coverage, hasn't been reliable with the ball in his hands, and hasn't shown he can carry the load of a high draft pick. That's a major problem, especially considering how badly this offense needs a second wide receiver to step up. And it doesn't stop with Coleman. Cole Bishop was supposed to be a plug-and-play safety with toughness and range, but he looks like a rookie still learning how to survive in the deep end. Dwayne Carter, once expected to rotate in on the defensive line, is sitting on injured reserve while the Bills are scrambling to hold it together up front. And Ray Davis? An afterthought, not even part of the offensive game plan in any meaningful way. When 4 picks in a single class all underperform or flat-out disappear, that stings. It affects depth. It affects planning. And more than anything, it forces veterans to do more than they should or can. That's where the criticism of General Manager Brandon Beane starts to bubble up. It's not that he's been a bad GM. Far from it. He's done a lot right, especially when it comes to finding Josh Allen and building a roster capable of competing year in and year out. But this league is ruthless. You're only as good as your last few moves. And lately, some of Beane's biggest swings have either missed or backfired hard. Look no further than the high-profile contracts he's handed out. Stephon Diggs was extended for nearly $100 million and never played it down on that extension. Von Miller was given a 6-year deal, tore his ACL after 10 games, and hasn't looked like the same player since. Tre'Davious White got top-tier money and then couldn't stay healthy. Matt Milano, same story. And those are not just any players. Those are your cornerstones, your all-pros, your playmakers, your big-money stars. So when they go down or check out mentally or physically, it doesn't just leave a hole. It blows a crater in your plans. Now you're not only missing their production, but you're stuck without the financial flexibility to pivot quickly. That's the real damage. Beane's intentions were good. Keep the core together, reward your stars, build a veteran-heavy, playoff-ready group. But football is brutal. Injuries don't care about contracts. And now the Bills are staring at a roster that looks a lot thinner than it should be. It also brings into focus just how top-heavy this team is. When Josh Allen is playing at an MVP level, it masks a lot of flaws. But when he's merely very good, or when the supporting cast lets him down, all those cracks become very visible. And then you start asking harder questions. Like, is this offense too dependent on Allen to be a superhero? Is Joe Brady really designing an offense tailored to what this team can do? Or is he just chasing ideas that don't fit the moment? Because lately, it feels like the game plans are being driven by checklists rather than matchup-based strategy. As if the goal each week is to make sure specific guys get their touches instead of just attacking the weaknesses of the opposing defense. Take the overuse of Keon Coleman, for example. There's a sense that the team is trying to justify the pick by force-feeding him targets. But it's not working. And worse, it's leading to turnovers and stall drives. Against New England, a game that should have been manageable, Coleman had a fumble and was targeted on key downs that led to punts. The plan was too rigid. The Bills got behind early, started pressing, and never really adjusted. The following week against Atlanta, same story. You score a touchdown on your opening drive, but then can't match the energy or execution of the opponent. Suddenly, you're in a hole and playing catch-up, and the offensive identity evaporates. Before we dive back in, make sure to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Your support helps us keep delivering the latest Buffalo Bills updates straight to your screen. And hey, don't hold back. Let us know your thoughts on today's news down in the comments. In what could be one of the most talked about moves of the offseason, the Buffalo Bills have reportedly announced the signing of Justin Simmons, sending shockwaves through the NFL and leaving fans and analysts buzzing about the future of the team's secondary. Simmons, a proven force in the defensive backfield, has long been considered one of the premier safeties in the league, and whispers of his potential move to Buffalo had been circulating for weeks. Now, with confirmations seemingly in place, the league is bracing for the ripple effects this acquisition could create. Sources close to the organization suggest that the Bills see Simmons as a cornerstone to bolster a secondary that has flirted with inconsistency in recent campaigns. His presence could dramatically elevate the pass defense, and insiders speculate that this signing might signal a more aggressive defensive philosophy for head coach Sean McDermott. Yet questions abound. How will Simmons' leadership mesh with existing veterans? Will the salary cap impact the roster in other areas? And perhaps most importantly, can this move tip the balance in a fiercely competitive AFC East? The timing of the announcement adds fuel to the rumor mill. Some analysts hint that Buffalo's front office had been quietly maneuvering behind the scenes, negotiating with Simmons and his representatives while publicly projecting calm. Now that the signing appears official, speculation runs wild over potential domino effects in free agency. Could this spark a chain reaction of defensive signings? Are other teams already adjusting their strategies in anticipation of facing a reinforced Bills secondary? Fans have taken to social media in droves, debating not only the immediate impact on the field, but also the larger narrative. Is this a statement of intent, a declaration that Buffalo is serious about a championship run? Or is it a calculated risk, banking on Simmons maintaining peak performance in a new system? The intrigue is palpable, and league insiders admit that we may be witnessing the start of a seismic shift in team dynamics. One thing is certain. With Justin Simmons joining the Bills, the conversation around the AFC and the NFL at large is about to get louder, more intense, and far more exciting. That's a wrap for now. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay on top of all things Buffalo Bills, make sure to subscribe and hit that like button. We'd love to hear what you think in the comments. See you in the next update.